Thanks for having me. I was a student here for a brief period. I went through some challenges in high school, and I had, anybody know what ADD is? I had a new type of ADD. I couldn't get enough attention. Largely in class, teachers didn't like that too much. So my brief period at Webb was memorable. It was beautiful. I have great memories of it. But I moved on, and I graduated from VGA, which is in Nashville. That's my hometown. And in fact, I haven't spoken to a crowd this young in a while. I give talks to colleges and to investment seminars and boring things like that. Now, not long ago, though, I was at VGA doing a similar thing. And I was already up on the podium speaking. My father, by the way, turned 91 yesterday. He showed up late. I'm going to have a little fun with you here telling the story, by the way. He showed up late. I could see in the back of the auditorium, Dad showing up, his tie and everything. And a young man jumped up, and I guess he said, "Sir, where would you like to sit?" And my father said, "Right up front." And the young man said, "Sir, this speaker is really boring. You don't want to sit up front." My father said, "Son, do you know who I am?" He's a military, ex-military guy, so I'm sure it scared the kid. The kid said, "No, sir, I don't." He said, "I'm the speaker's father." You know what the young man said? "Sir, do you know who I am?" Dad said, "No." He said, "Good." And he took him to his seat. I was so intimidated having my father there. He can't hear a thing, and it's still intimidating me. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my life, and I'm going to give you a pep talk. Because I personally went through some rough seas in high school for some reason. Again, I had that ADD thing. I was a budding comedian and a creative man in a world that didn't appreciate it. Wait a minute. He did appreciate it in certain situations, but usually not in class and other places where I had to control myself and just couldn't. Eventually, though, I'm here to tell you, I got my act together. There's hope for everybody. God put me here to make everybody else look good. And so I finally got out of high school and I went down to Auburn. Did pretty well there. I was an English major. I was in theater. Graduated. Went to Oxford for a brief period and studied literature. And by the way, I was a musician growing up, so I traveled with a rock band for a couple of years. We got pretty popular. We were driving around in a van with 5 guys and our mountain bikes on the roof and a trailer full of equipment. We were opening for big bands like you ever heard of Widespread Panic? Widespread opened for us their first, 15 gigs in Athens, Georgia. I wanted to have a normal life, so I bailed on the rock gig and moved to New York City, really with no job or any prospects, and decided I might try my hand in comedy. I thought it was pretty funny, like I said, that ADD thing. So I got a job as a doorman at the most important comedy club in the world at the time called Catch a Rising Star. And I didn't know that I could do comedy, but I thought I could. I make myself laugh all the time. So there you go. I'm the biggest audience. I'm the audience that matters, right? So I got this job as a doorman. And here comes Robin Williams, and Eddie Murphy, and Adam Sandler, and Chris Rock. And I'm at the door. So they gave me this little microphone. And at the beginning of every show, I got the opportunity to tell the audience that was filing into the club where the coat check was, and the bar hours, and the booze, little stuff like that. And I started cracking some jokes in that little mic they gave me out front. And I would work on that stuff. And I started delivering some what I thought were great jokes. And one day I was tapped on the shoulder by the manager and the guy that books all the comedians. And I thought, oh no, I've taken liberties again, that ADD thing. And they pulled me out back and they said, "You're funny. Are you a comedian?" And I lied and said, "Yes." And they said, "You want an audition?" And I said, "Yes." "All right, 2 weeks, Thursday night, you're up." So then I ran back to my tiny New York apartment and went, now what do I do? Well, I wrote some material. And I worked on it, and I had my shot. And I got up there in front of the most important, comedy crowd in the world, and I didn't bomb. In fact, I did pretty well. And they liked it. And I got on a catch. And not only did I get on a catch rising star, but I got on regularly. And I was opening for Adam Sandler and Chris Rock. And I was all over Philadelphia. I was going to Boston. I was going to the Poconos, New Jersey. All these, I'm from the South, from Nashville. So it was pretty funny being up there. It's kind of, they're a different audience. But I figured out how to be the Southerner in New York and kind of go through the shtick. And, my jokes were cliche jokes, like I talk about the Nashville Zoo relative to the great zoos of the country. And I say the only difference between the Southern Zoo and other zoos is they actually have the recipe on the sign, along with the Latin name, genus, and the species. I love that stuff. It's cliche. So, I got away with that for a good period. But then I was traveling again. And, I really wanted to get married and have a normal family. So I got a day job as an advertising copywriter for Ogilvy and Mather. And I was writing ads for a jewelry line, Bulgari Jewelry. You may see the ads in the fancy magazines. It was awful, boring, horrible. But the girls were really cute in that industry. And I was getting paid. And I was working. I had a job. And so, coming from Webb school to my own troubles, I had a job. It was a good job. It was paid. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. And then I got an after-hours position, editing research reports for a Wall Street firm. Stock reports. I was a good editor. I liked finding things wrong with other people's work. I was a great proofreader. With a red pen, I could just do great damage. It gave me, my ego, needed sustenance to find somebody else's mistakes. I'm still like that, too. My wife will attest. So my children. I have 3 children. I was a senior at Sewanee, a senior at Innsworth High School, and a sophomore at Innsworth High School. And they got a lot of problems with me. They don't appreciate me like maybe y'all do. But so I was a good proofreader and editor, and I fell in love with stocks. I just did. These companies were living, breathing organisms, of humans that came up with ideas every day and executed on them. And sometimes they were genius. And sometimes they were so simple as to be genius. And I changed my whole worldview from one of wanting to be an artist and on stage. I want to figure out these things called companies. And I did. However, when I finally decided to make the full-time jump to Wall Street, and I went and interviewed at the important firms we've all heard of, J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley, they laughed. They would look at my resume and say, comedian, rock drummer, didn't get out of Webb, English major. It was impossible. I could not get on Wall Street. It took me years. In the meantime, by the way, I got married, had a baby. My responsibilities were growing, and my desperation to get onto Wall Street was growing every day. I couldn't buy myself a job. And so here's my pep talk to you guys. It ain't over till it's over. Attitude's everything. Never give up. So here's the deal. I finally got a job. I moved back to Atlanta from San Francisco where I was living. At the time I'd been writing ads. Moved to to Atlanta. Again, I couldn't get hired for the life of me. Even my dad was in the business, and he would call friends of his, and they still wouldn't hire. Nothing worked. So finally there was this one guy. His name was Fontaine McDaniel. He had a soft spot for me, but he wouldn't hire me, but he would let me come into his office and try to convince him. That's all I wanted, He keeps letting me in, so I'm going to keep coming over there. So I did. And I finally, he still wouldn't hire. So I said, sir, I've made a little money. Another lie. I'll work for free. Let me sweep the floors around this trading desk. Let me listen to what these people talk about. Let me edit for free. I'll do it for free. Well, he thought that was pretty powerful, so he said, let me sleep on that. Can you believe he said, let me sleep on it? I'm offered to work for free. That's cheap labor, gang. I mean, good night. And so he slept on it. He called me up the next day. And he said, all right, I'll pay you $60,000 a year. I said, let me think about it. I called him back. I said, I need 65. My wife says so. He says, okay, you got it. I got 65 grand out of that, and I went to work. Wow. So there I was. Nervous Nelly. I didn't study economics. I did not study finance. I don't know an income statement. I do not know a balance sheet. These are terms of finance. But I'm eager, and I think I'm smart and funny. So I just listen to everything. I listen to phone calls. I talked one salesman into letting me listen to his phone calls every morning. I got in early. I would listen. He'd say, older man, took me under his wing. Sure. So he'd set me up so that I would listen to his calls with these important money managers. I'd listen to the dialogue. I'd take notes. By the way, 1 year went by. I was so eager and so aggressive. I was stepping on toes, and they fired me. Okay, that was edgy because I had another child on the way. So it's Christmas. I'm unemployed. I come home from Atlanta with my little family, and I go to mom and dad's, and I stayed for a couple of weeks. And nobody ever asked about the job or anything. I just sat there wondering, what am I going to do? I didn't know. So the funny thing was, one of those senior salesmen at this firm had called another firm, a better firm in Atlanta, and said, you got to interview this kid. He's out of control. He's got all this energy. I think he's going to be a talent. So I got a call from the white shoe firm in the Southeast called Robinson Humphrey. And I went in there, interviewed, took a test, an aptitude test, passed, and was hired. Whoa! So I got a second win. I got a second chance. So, right after I get hired, the boss that hired me gets fired. So then I'm dangling out there as a new guy at this important investment bank full of wealthy and Harvard grads, and again, I'm just scared to death that I'm going to be cast out again, yet again. And so this is a great story. Again, one of them for experience. So I'm in that little room, the far end of the trading desk, wondering, okay, how am I going to make myself relevant? I have nobody to call. I have no accounts. I have nothing, no business really, and this new manager doesn't know me. What am I going to do? So I kept trying to get appointments with him, and he's too busy, the new manager. I can't get an appointment with my boss. I am at risk, big time. I didn't tell my wife this. I'd come home, yeah, great. They weren't great. So I befriended his secretary. And I said, listen, I'm having a whole lot of time. I made her laugh first, by the way. Charm will get you everywhere in this world. It will. So she became a big fan because I would come by, give her little treats, and make her chuckle. So finally, when it came time for me to ask for something, she was very helpful. I said, listen, I need to get an appointment with my boss. I can't get it here. She says he's going to New York next Thursday. He's staying at the Intercontinental Hotel. Yes. So I made my first business trip. I booked the flight, got the hotel room with her guidance, and I flew to New York with no business, by the way, to have. I was there to get an appointment with my boss who didn't even know it. She had given me a schedule. There was a 2-hour period on this one day where I knew he had no appointments and that he would likely be in his room. So I'm upstairs. I call up. Bill, Tom Landstreet. Hi, Tom. Gosh, I'm so sorry. I haven't had time to meet with you. Don't worry about it. I'm in New York. Really? So am I. I'm upstairs. Really? What a coincidence, Bill. Gosh. Well, before my next appointment, I've got a full day. Do you have any time? Well, yeah, I'm available right now. I knew it. Come on down. Where are you? I said, I'm in the Intercontinental. He said, what a coincidence. So I went down to his room on the door. I opened it up. There's a grand piano in the room. Okay, there's money on Wall Street. And I'm pretty excited about it. There is a grand piano in his hotel room. I will never forget it. I walk in there, we sit down, we have a cup of coffee in the sitting area. And I start pitching. I start swinging for the fences. I start selling like mad. And he loved it. And so when I got back to Atlanta, I knew that I wasn't going to be fired. I knew it. But then what? He became hard to get his attention again. But I knew I wasn't going to be fired. So we had a conference in New York. Again, I had no clients. I flew up to New York to go to the conference. I'm at the conference. I'm trying to make myself relevant, get in the way of conversations, And I find a business card in the bathroom on the floor. I pick it up. It's a hedge fund. Put it in my pocket. I don't want anybody else to have it. I don't know who his client is. I call them when I get home. I call them like 100 times. It's the only client I got. This is his business card up out on the restroom floor. Guess what? I got a huge trade, a huge order. He said, buy 100,000 shares of Office Depot at $16. And I went, so I ran and I filled out the little ticket to do it. I took it to the trading desk and I filled it out wrong. And the traders, they're animals. They're not nice. They think they're smart. They think they're aggressive. He threw it back at me, called the boss, and got me in trouble because I didn't know how to fill out a ticket. I didn't order a ticket. I'd never done it, right? I mean, it was weighing over my head, weighing. But here's what happened. Finally got the ticket filled out. Finally got the order. Stopped. Doubled. And the client loved me and started just showering me commission dollars. And one morning, we were in a morning meeting. Every morning, we get up at the crack of dawn. We go through a bunch of stocks, the whole firm, in a room like this, a theater room. And my boss, the one I didn't know, the one I met in New York, says, I have a story for you all. We have a salesman here that nobody knows named Tom Landstreet. He found a business card on the bathroom floor. He turned it into one of our best clients. Tom, come up here. And I was like, you're going to get fired. I'll get fired again. I wasn't fired. I was able to turn that into I was the top producer at Robinson Humphrey. And I'm not bragging. I just want to tell you this. I was able to beat all the Harvard grads, all the Dartmouth grads, by having attitude and aggressiveness and, interest. If you just show up sometimes, you're beating the other person. In life, I'm here to tell you, it's attitude, it's persistence. People peak at different times. You'll look around and today's campus leader may struggle later. Today's biggest goofballs are going to be the Google founders. I haven't peaked yet. I'm still working on it. I'm looking forward to the day that I, reach my full potential. But that's the only story I wanted to share with you. Coming back here, the memories I just talked to in economics class. I hope I was riveting. I doubt it. But I'm here to just share with you that life is an education. Never stop learning. Always try to just get there a step early. Attitude is everything. If you have to manufacture it, do it. You'll get rewarded beyond your wildest dreams if you follow this advice. It's been a miracle. I want to tell you one funny little story, if you don't mind. I'm going to tell you the story about, since we had a nice invocation to begin, the atheist economic professor from Webb School, who was walking through the woods one sunny afternoon in the Smokies by himself, lost in his own thoughts, thinking about the power of evolution in nature, and just really, you know how teachers are, lost in their own thoughts and their own ego. I'm kidding. Strolling through the woods, thinking about the power of nature, and he hears a rustling in the woods next to him. Startled, he looks over. It's a big bear emerging from the woods. Of course, he takes off running, like a professor runs. Pins falling out, calculator. Knock knee, pigeon toed, flat foot, the whole nine. Wallabies untied. Running as fast as he can, which is not very fast. The bear is catching him. He looks over his shoulder. The bear is about to get him. Right then, he trips on a stump, falls to the ground, scuttles over on his back. Okay? The bear's claws are fully extended, about to take his head off. Right then, the atheist teacher from Webb says, "Oh my God!" Time stops. The bear freezes, and a voice comes from heaven. You've forsaken me all these years. You've told students I don't exist, and now, under duress, you seek my help? Well, the teacher rightly said, "Well, sir, I guess it would be a little insincere to ask you to turn me into a God-fearing Christian now, but could you turn the bear into a Christian?"